My dream home cost a decade of my soul. Dad demanded answers. My reply was pure venom. Highlights the psychological toll. Dad's aggressive demand and a cutting, toxic response. I spent a decade of my life pouring every ounce of energy and every saved penny into buying my dream home, only for my dad to text me, "We need to talk about the house." But the conversation that followed wasn't about congratulations. It was an accusation that cut me deeper than any financial hardship ever could. It was a moment that made me question everything. "You see, my name's Emma and I'm 28. That text landed last month on a Saturday evening. I was sitting alone in my brand new living room. Alone. After 8 agonizing years of saving every single penny, years of saying no to nights out, years of skipping lavish trips, I finally held the keys to my dream home. The moment they were in my hand, I sent out invites to my entire family for a housewarming. I pictured laughter, warmth, the start of a brand new chapter. I spent days getting ready. I fluffed cushions in the guest rooms, cooked all their favorite foods until my kitchen smelled like home, meticulously placed family photos, hoping to bridge the growing gap between us. But as Saturday afternoon faded into evening, my exhilaration curdled into bewilderment, then a bitter sadness. Not a single family member showed up. Not one. I was left sitting there alone, surrounded by unopened boxes, cold food, and a quiet that screamed louder than any argument ever could. That's when Dad's text vibrated in my hand. My story, honestly, starts in a tiny 2-bedroom apartment on the east side of town. My parents, George and Susan, worked multiple jobs just to keep a roof over our heads. Mom was a waitress in the mornings, then cleaned offices at night. Dad did construction, security, whatever he could find. My younger siblings, Rachel and David, shared the second bedroom, and I slept on a pull-out couch in the living room until I was 18. Money? Always scarce. I remember Mom stretching a single pound of ground beef into 3 meals, each with more beans, less meat. Dad tracked every kilowatt. Leave a light on in an empty room, and you'd get the lecture. "Electricity costs money we don't have," he'd moan, flipping the switch with a sigh that carried all his financial worries. Despite all that, we had our Sunday drives. Once a month, Mom would convince Dad to borrow his brother's car, and we'd cruise through the affluent neighborhoods on the other side of town. Those streets, lined with exquisite houses, completely fascinated me. I'd press my face against the window, picking out my favorites, imagining what life inside those walls might be like. "Check out the one with the crimson door, Mom," I'd shout, pointing to a craftsman-style home with a big front porch and hanging flower baskets. Mom would smile, her eyes lighting up. "That one is stunning, Emma." All those windows would let in so much natural light. But Dad's response was always the same. "People like us don't own houses like that," he'd add, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "It's best not to fill your head with unattainable dreams." Those words stuck with me, not as a discouragement, but as a burning challenge. By 15, I'd convinced the owner of a small diner to hire me on weekends and after school. I saved every single penny, stashing my earnings in a lockbox under my pull-out bed. When my parents found out I was working, they wanted me to contribute to household expenses. I did, of course, but I still managed to save half of each paycheck for my future. High school graduation brought surprising news. Mrs. Garner, my guidance counselor, pulled me into her office one April afternoon, practically humming with excitement. "Emma, did you check your emails today?" she asked. I hadn't. We couldn't afford internet access at home. When she showed me the scholarship announcement on her computer screen, I just burst into tears. A full ride to State University, including housing. I was going to be the first in my family to attend college. I expected my family to rejoice, to see this as a watershed moment. Mom hugged me tight and whispered, "I always knew you were special." Dad just nodded, a flicker of pride followed by his usual realism. College is expensive even with scholarships. Books, materials, living expenses. Don't get too big for your boots. Rachel, then 15, seemed genuinely happy. David, barely 13, was too young to really grasp the significance. College tested me in ways I hadn't expected. The grant covered tuition and basic dorms, but little else. I worked at the university bookstore between classes, waited tables at a nearby restaurant on weekends. Sleep became a luxury, but I kept my grades up and kept saving. The cultural transition was arguably harder than the financial pressure. So many of my classmates came from wealthy backgrounds, discussing European vacations with their doctor parents, their lawyer parents. I learned to navigate conversations carefully, revealing little about my own background, always feeling that wide, invisible gap between our experiences. When I called home, the talks grew more strained. Mom wanted every detail of campus life, living vicariously through me. Dad mostly asked about costs and if my jobs interfered with my studies. Rachel and David spoke less and less. Our shared childhoods weren't enough to bridge the widening distance. Graduation day arrived after 4 grueling years. I scanned the audience several times, desperately trying to spot my whole family among the proud parents. Only Mom emerged, sitting alone, in a dress I knew she'd saved months for. "Where is everyone?" I asked when we met after the ceremony. "Your father took an extra shift," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. They're short-handed at the site. Rachel had a school project due, and David wasn't feeling well. I nodded, swallowing the painful disappointment. We took pictures together, just the two of us, with my hard-earned diploma. I realized later that day set a pattern. My family rarely acknowledged my successes, no matter how meaningful they were to me. Their absence at graduation? It was just the beginning. With my marketing degree, I landed an entry-level job at Blake & Associates, a mid-sized firm downtown. The starting wage wasn't huge, but there was real room for advancement. I found a studio apartment 20 minutes away by bus. It was under 400 square feet, the kitchenette so small I could touch opposite counters without fully extending my arms. But it was mine, and the rent allowed me to keep saving. My financial plan was meticulously crafted. Paychecks were divided, 45% for necessities, 35% for my future home savings, and 20% for anything else. A rare movie, an occasional dinner out. I tracked every dollar on a spreadsheet, watching my housing fund slowly climb. "You need to live a little," my colleague Lily would say, waving concert tickets. I'd decline. "You're only young once." She wasn't wrong, but my focus was unwavering. Dad's words about unattainable dreams fueled me. I wasn't just saving for a house, I was proving something. To myself, and to them. Professional development was steady. Second year, I was promoted to account manager. Year 3, another jump to senior account manager. The salary increases, straight into my house fund, not on upgrading my living situation. On weekends and evenings, I started a side business managing social media for local small businesses. What started with one client, the florist downstairs, grew to 8 regular accounts. That extra money accelerated my savings tremendously. But these financial aspirations came at a cost to my personal life. Friends stopped inviting me on expensive outings because they knew I'd say no. My apartment remained modestly furnished with used pieces. Vacations were non-existent. Even holidays became work days as I took advantage of businesses needing social media coverage during breaks. In my 3rd year at the firm, I met Ethan in the elevator. He worked in the legal office 2 floors up, and his smile shone against his dark blue suit as he asked about the stack of social media strategy documents I was holding. Our romance grew slowly. Coffee dates turned into dinners, movies, then weekend getaways. Initially, he was understanding of my schedule, supportive of my ambition. 7 months in, he suggested we move in together to save rent. We could get a nicer place for less than we're spending individually, he reasoned. You'd hit your house fund goal much faster. The logic was sound, yet something held me back. Maybe it was the fear of merging my meticulously managed financial world with someone else's, or the worry that my savings discipline would falter with a partner. Whatever the reason, I declined, and Ethan graciously accepted my decision. For years into our relationship, though cracks appeared, Ethan started calling my saving habits an obsession. Arguments flared when I turned down invites to destination weddings or refused to spend money on experiences he valued. "There's more to life than planning for a future that might never come," he said during our final fight. "You're missing everything that's happening now." The breakup was sad, but it also brought a strange clarity. I realized I wasn't willing to compromise on my goal, not even for love. The house symbolized more than just property. It was tangible proof that people like us could achieve what my father thought was impossible. My family's reactions to my professional growth were complicated. Mom was genuinely proud, but she seemed increasingly uncomfortable during her few visits to my apartments. "This neighborhood is so different from ours," she'd say, looking uneasily at the young professionals entering the coffee shop below my second flat. Dad refused to visit at all. "Downtown's too fancy for me," he'd respond when invited. "Too many one-way streets and nowhere to park." My connection with my siblings changed too. David, like Dad, now worked sporadically in construction and only called when he needed money. My offers of help with budgeting or job applications were met with defensiveness. Not everyone wants to work themselves to death for some American dream fantasy. He'd snap when I suggested a trade certification program. Rachel married her high school sweetheart young and quickly had 2 kids. Our chats revolved around her children, with little interest shown in my life. When I mentioned my rising house fund after a particularly successful quarter in my side business, she immediately changed the subject. 9 years into my career, during a client meeting, I had an epiphany. The CEO of a local firm mentioned she bought her first investment property at 32. "The perfect time to build wealth," she'd said casually, "is when you have income, but before you have major family obligations." I was 30. I realized my timeline could be accelerated. My savings, coupled with my excellent credit score and consistent income from both my main job and my side business, put me on track to buy a home 2 years earlier than I'd planned. That evening, I called a mortgage broker to schedule a preliminary consultation. The meeting with Oliver, my mortgage broker, just confirmed it. 8 years of rigorous saving and career advancement had prepared me incredibly well for home ownership. My pre-approval amount exceeded my expectations, but I was determined to stay below the maximum to maintain financial flexibility. "You've done the hard part already," Oliver remarked, reviewing my perfect credit and substantial down payment. "Most first-time buyers struggle with the saving phase. You're in an enviable position." His words validated years of sacrifices, all those canceled invitations, the bare furnishings in my tiny apartments. Next step, a real estate agent. Through a business connection, I met Claire, a no-nonsense agent specializing in first-time buyers. Our initial chat set clear parameters: craftsman or colonial design, at least 3 bedrooms for family visits and a home office, a well-established neighborhood with character, and a manageable commute downtown. "I've been visualizing this house for 10 years, I told Claire. "I'll know it when I see it, but these are my non-negotiables." The house hunting was more emotionally exhausting than I'd anticipated. Over 2 months, we viewed 40 properties. Some were close to my vision, but had catastrophic flaws. Water issues hidden beneath fresh paint, antiquated electrical systems needing costly upgrades, or locations that would add an hour to my daily drive. By property 30, exhaustion had set in. "Maybe I'm being too picky," I sighed to Claire, leaving an almost beautiful colonial with a faulty foundation. "Maybe I should adjust my expectations." Claire shook her head. "The right house is worth waiting for," she told me, "especially for someone as patient and purposeful as you." Property 35 changed everything. Driving down a tree-lined street in the historic Oakwood district, I saw it before Claire even paused. A craftsman home with a spacious front porch, antique woodwork, and that crimson door. My heart raced as we parked. "This looks promising," Claire commented, noting my expression. The interior surpassed my expectations. Original hardwood floors throughout, built-in bookshelves flanking a brick fireplace, a remodeled kitchen that preserved the home's heritage while offering modern utility. Upstairs, 3 bedrooms with angled ceilings and dormer windows, perfect for guests and a home office. Standing in the master bedroom, sunlight streaming through mullioned windows onto wide hardwood floors, I felt an unexpected surge of emotion. "This is it," I whispered, running my palm across the century-old doorframe. "This feels like coming home to a place I've never been before." Claire nodded, understanding the gravity of the moment. "The asking price is at the top of your range, but given the location and condition, it's reasonable. If you're serious, we should act immediately." We submitted an offer at the asking price, along with a personal letter to the owners explaining why their house would be the ideal first home for a first-generation homebuyer. I barely slept that night, running numbers and visualizing my furniture in those sunlit rooms. For days later, after receiving 3 other offers, one even higher than mine, my offer was accepted. The owners, an elderly couple downsizing to be closer to their grandchildren, were so moved by my letter. They chose my offer over a higher bid because they wanted their cherished home to go to someone who would truly appreciate its character. The financing process threw up a few unexpected hurdles. My self-employment income from the side business, while substantial, posed verification challenges. The underwriter asked for extra documentation, pushing the closing date back 3 weeks. "This is normal for self-employed borrowers," Oliver assured me. "Your finances are solid. It's just a matter of properly documenting everything." Those 3 weeks felt like an eternity, especially since a competitive buyer remained interested, ready to step in if my financing fell through. I submitted tax returns, profit and loss statements, client contracts, assembling a comprehensive financial portrait to satisfy the underwriter. Finally, approval came through. Closing was scheduled for the following Tuesday. I signed countless documents, initialed dozens of pages, and then I received the keys to my first home. The moment felt surreal, the culmination of a journey that began with those Sunday drives through neighborhoods just like this one. After closing, I asked for time alone in the empty house. I walked from room to room, letting the significance sink in. In the living room, I sat on the floor and cried. Tears of accomplishment, relief, and vindication. The daughter of tenants who couldn't afford to leave lights on now owned a piece of the American dream that had once seemed so utterly unattainable. Taking pictures of each room, I created a family group text, something I rarely did. "Just closed on my first house." I typed, "Can't wait for you all to come and help me christen it properly. I'm thinking of throwing a family dinner 3 weeks from Saturday once I'm settled. Save the date." The comments trickled in. Mom sent a "congratulations." Rachel responded with a thumbs up emoji. David didn't respond at all. And Dad eventually sent, "Houses like that have high upkeep costs. I hope you budgeted for repairs." The lackluster response stung, but it couldn't diminish my success. Standing in what would become my bedroom, watching the sunset paint the walls amber, I promised myself that this house would become a home full of warmth and welcome, whether my family chose to join in my joy or not. The 2 weeks between closing and my planned family gathering flew by in a whirlwind. I arranged for my meager apartment furnishings to be moved, immediately realizing how inadequate they looked in the larger space. The living room sofa that had dominated my apartment barely filled a corner of the new living room. My dining table for 2 looked lost in the proper dining room. I reminded myself, one room at a time. I prioritized essential spaces. I found a second-hand dining table that could seat 8, perfect for the family dinner. A quick coat of paint refreshed it, and new chairs from a budget-friendly store completed the set. With the basics in place, I focused on preparing for my family's first visit. I splurged on a new mattress and quality bedding for my parents' guest room, knowing Dad's back problems often made sleeping away from home difficult. This wasn't just about showing off. It was an opportunity to reconnect, to bridge that growing distance. Maybe seeing my success in person would help them understand my choices, my sacrifices. The second bedroom was set up for Rachel, her husband Mark, and their kids, with an air mattress next to the queen bed. The small third bedroom, which would eventually become my home office, would accommodate David. When I went grocery shopping, my cart overflowed with ingredients for everyone's favorite dishes. Dad's pot roast, Mom's blueberry cobbler, Rachel's Caesar salad, David's buffalo chicken dip. The bill made me wince, but this celebration warranted the expense. Throughout the house, I added thoughtful touches. A photo wall in the hallway displaying family photos from decades past. Mom and Dad on their wedding day, Rachel and David as toddlers in a kiddie pool. All four of us on a rare beach vacation when I was 12. Welcome baskets greeted each family member. Recent images were conspicuously absent, which I hoped would change with this visit. For Mom, a gardening book and seed packets for a backyard plot we could plan together. For Dad, a custom keychain with the house address, symbolizing his welcome anytime. For Rachel's kids, age-appropriate books and coloring supplies. For David, a gift card to a local brewery for a tour I thought we might take together. I sent formal invitations with detailed directions, parking info, and a warm note expressing how much their presence meant. Mom called, asking what she could bring. I assured her everything was taken care of. Rachel texted that Mark had taken time off, and they were excited to see the new place. David responded with a brief, "I'll be there," which lifted my spirits. Dad remained silent, but Mom assured me they'd drive together. The shift began 5 days before dinner. Rachel called first. "Emma, I'm so sorry, but little Emma's come down with an ear infection. The pediatrician says no travel this weekend. I tried to salvage it. Could Mark stay with her while you and Jack come?" Rachel's excuse became more elaborate. "Mark's mother is counting on us visiting her on Sunday, so he needs to take Jack there while I stay with Emma." She promised, "We'll definitely come another weekend, once everyone's healthy." I accepted her explanation, but disappointment was a heavy weight in my stomach. That evening, David texted, "Boss just scheduled me for Saturday. Someone called out and I need the hours." David rarely took extra shifts and constantly complained about last-minute scheduling. Still, challenging him would only add tension. I responded with understanding, offering to reschedule. Thursday brought Mom's call, the one I'd been dreading after my siblings set the pattern. "Your father's back is acting up something terrible," she began, her voice tinged with apology. "He can barely get from the bedroom to the kitchen today. No way he could sit in the car for an hour each way." "I could come pick you up," I offered, desperation creeping into my voice. "Or just you could come, and we could FaceTime Dad during dinner." "You know he wouldn't want me traveling alone," she replied, "and he'd feel terrible being left out completely." By Friday afternoon, my family dinner for 5 had dwindled to a party of 1. I stood in my kitchen, surrounded by groceries for meals no one would eat, staring at the dining table set with new plates and carefully folded napkins. The house that had felt so full of potential now echoed with emptiness. I tried calling each family member, offering alternative dates, different arrangements, anything to salvage the gathering. Voicemails and unanswered texts piled up. Only Mom responded, reiterating Dad's health concerns, promising they'd visit soon. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear, the spring sunshine seeming to mock my solitude. The welcome baskets sat untouched on unslept-in guest beds. I moved mechanically through the day, putting away perishable groceries, covering prepared dishes with plastic wrap. By afternoon, I gave up the pretense and changed from my carefully selected outfit back into comfortable jeans and a t-shirt. Sitting on the living room floor, surrounded by still unpacked boxes, I began organizing books and kitchenware, trying to focus on the physical task rather than the emotional weight pressing against my chest. The house that was supposed to be filled with family laughter remained quiet, save for the occasional ping of my phone. Work emails, social media notifications. But nothing from my family. The silence from them screamed volumes, especially from Dad, who hadn't directly acknowledged my invitation or expressed any regrets. As evening approached, I ordered a pizza. I just couldn't bring myself to cook any of the special meals I'd planned. Sitting cross-legged on the floor among half-unpacked boxes, I scrolled through design websites on my tablet, forcing myself to focus on future plans rather than present disappointment. That's when Dad's text message arrived, causing my heart to leap with a momentary, foolish hope. "We need to talk about the house," it said. My fingers paused over the screen, pizza forgotten. Dad rarely texted. He preferred brief calls or having Mom relay messages. No congratulations. No apologies. Just 7 words that carried an unsettling weight. Despite the late hour, I called right away, my heart pounding. He answered on the second ring, his brusque greeting devoid of warmth. "Dad, I got your text. Is everything okay?" I tried to keep my voice calm, despite the growing worry. "Your mother is upset," he began abruptly. "She's been crying on and off since you sent those house pictures." Confusion rushed over me. "Crying? Why? Is she okay?" "No, Emma. She's not okay." His voice hardened. "None of us are okay with the show you're putting on." I echoed, perplexed. "What are you talking about?" "This magnificent property in that upscale area. The dinner invitation makes you sound like a hostess from those magazines your mother used to read. It's not you, Emma. At least, not the you we raised." The accusation landed like a physical blow. I sank back against an unopened box, struggling to process his words. "Dad, I've worked for this house for years. You know I saved every dime and worked multiple jobs. This isn't a show. It's the result of 8 years of hard work." He scoffed. "Is that what you call it when you abandon your family? When you stop coming to Sunday dinners because you're too busy with your office job and side hustle? When you move to neighborhoods where your father is uncomfortable visiting?" Each question grew in volume until he was almost shouting. In the background, I heard Mom's muffled voice, asking him to calm down. I never turned my back on anyone. I protested, raising my voice to match his intensity. "I invited everyone here this weekend. I arranged rooms for every one of you. I cooked all your favorite foods." "Because we don't belong in a house like that," he exploded. "Your mother saw those hardwood floors and that fancy kitchen and knew she'd be afraid to touch anything. David said he felt sick after seeing those photographs, knowing he'd never be able to afford anything close to that on construction pay. Rachel felt it too. Said you were showing off, making it obvious how far you'd progressed beyond us." Tears welled up. His words wounded me deeper than he could have imagined. "I wanted to share this with you, not make anyone feel awful." "Well, you failed," he stated flatly. "Your mother believes you're embarrassed by where you came from, that you bought this house to escape your roots, to escape us." "That's not true," I whispered, though doubt began to creep in. Had I unconsciously chosen a neighborhood so different from my childhood home as a form of rejection? "Isn't it?" Dad continued. "When was the last time you brought any of those work pals to meet us? When was the last time you talked about your family at that fancy office? Do your coworkers even know your father works in construction and your mother cleans houses?" The questions hit nerves I didn't even realize were exposed. I had compartmentalized my life, keeping my background separate from my professional world. Not out of shame, but out of a desire to be judged on my own merits, not my origins. "I'm proud of where I came from," I insisted, my voice breaking. "Everything I've accomplished is because of what you and Mom taught me about work ethic and perseverance." "Save it," Dad said. "Actions speak louder than words. and your actions say you're creating a life that excludes us. This house is just the ultimate proof." Mom's voice grew louder in the background. Dad must have partially covered the phone as their conversation became muted. When he returned, his tone had shifted from angry to resigned. "Your mother wants me to tell you that she loves you no matter what," he said mechanically. "But I need to be honest with you, Emma. This alters things between us. You constantly bragging about your accomplishments, making the rest of us feel small. There will be consequences for our connection." I continued, my tone tinged with disbelief. "Are you really threatening to cut me off because I bought a house? Because I succeeded?" "Call it what you want," he replied coldly. "Just remember that choices have repercussions. Always have." The phone abruptly hung up, leaving me in stunned silence. I moved through the rooms in a daze, touching the walls, door frames, countertops that had brought me so much joy just days before. The pizza congealed in its box, forgotten. The emptiness of the house felt oppressive, not peaceful. Each room was a testament to what I had supposedly chosen over my family. My father's accusations had tainted every beautiful feature. The guest rooms mocked me with their emptiness, the welcome baskets pathetic in their optimism. In the master bedroom, I caught my reflection in the mirror, wearing designer jeans and a casual top that probably cost more than my father spent on clothing in a year. When had that happened? When had I started spending $90 on a shirt without blinking? When I grew up watching my mother darn socks, rather than replace them? Had success changed me in ways I hadn't realized? Had I, in my determination to rise above financial hardship, inadvertently elevated myself away from the people who had shaped me? These questions circled, like vultures, as I sank onto the edge of my bed. My eyes were swollen from tears by dawn, but my mind had achieved a clarity that had been missing. The night stretched out before me, a dark canvas for painful self-examination. Sleep completely evaded me as I replayed years of interactions, searching for the moment when advancement became alienation in their eyes. The house wasn't the problem, nor was my success. The real issue was deeper, rooted in complex family dynamics and expectations that I had both fulfilled and defied. Morning light filtered through curtainless windows, casting long shadows across my bedroom floor. My night of painful reflection had crystallized something important. I could not control my family's reactions, but I could control my own. After a shower and coffee, I sat at my new dining table with my laptop open. The words didn't come easily, but they came honestly. I drafted, deleted, and redrafted my response several times. This wasn't just a response to Dad's accusations. It was a proclamation of boundaries I should have established years ago. The final text was lengthier than I usually wrote, but each word felt vital. "Dad, Mom Rachel, and David," it began. "I spent the night thinking about our conversation and the thoughts underlying your absence yesterday. This is difficult to write, but I need you to hear me. First and foremost, I love you all deeply. Nothing about my career path or this house purchase changes that. You are my roots, my foundation, and the work ethic that built this life came directly from watching Dad work double shifts and Mom juggle multiple jobs. Every sacrifice you made for us kids taught me the value of perseverance. When I look at this house, I don't see an escape from my past. I see the physical manifestation of the lessons you taught me. I won't apologize for working hard and achieving goals. I won't pretend I haven't earned this to soothe feelings of inadequacy that I never created or intended. And loving you doesn't imply that I have to diminish myself to make you happy. Most importantly, I will not sell this house or downplay my accomplishments in order to maintain relationships that should be strengthened, rather than threatened, by my success. The door to this home will always be open to each of you whenever you are ready to walk through it without resentment or judgment. I have designed spaces specifically for you. A guest room with a firm mattress Dad needs for his back, a backyard where Mom and I could garden together, space for Rachel's kids to play, and local breweries I thought David might enjoy exploring with me. I'm not choosing this house over family. I'm choosing to believe that love isn't diminished by square footage or mortgage payments. And I believe we can grow together rather than apart. This door will always be open to you, but I won't close it on my dreams. I hope someday you'll understand that my success honors, rather than rejects, everything you've given me. I love you always, Emma. My finger hovered over the send button for several minutes. Then, I pressed send and set my phone aside, deliberately turning my attention to unpacking books onto the built-in shelves. The responses came in stages, each revealing something about my relationships. Mom called first, her voice thick with tears. I never meant to make you feel bad about your accomplishments, she began. I am proud of you, Emma. Always have been. It's just difficult to see you construct a life so different from what I could provide. You provided everything that mattered, Mom, I replied gently. Love, morals, strength. The rest is just stuff. Our chat lasted over an hour, the first completely honest session we'd had in years. She confessed to being terrified by my work and financial security, admitting that Dad's reaction partly originated from his own sense of failure. He wanted so much more for us than what he could achieve, she revealed. It's complicated for him. I accept that, I told her, but I need him to understand that my success is also his success. Everything I am began with you both. We ended the call with preliminary plans for her to visit alone. Rachel texted the next weekend, her message unexpectedly vulnerable. I lied about Emma being sick. To be honest, I was jealous and ashamed. Mark and I can barely pay our apartment rent, and seeing your lovely home made me feel like a failure. I am sorry. Your message made me cry. Could we start over? I called her right away, and our conversation uncovered years of competitive feelings I'd never recognized. As the older sister who appeared to do everything right, I represented a standard she felt she couldn't meet. My achievements had unknowingly become a measuring stick against which she assessed her own life choices. I've never thought less of your choices, I told her. You have lovely children and a loving marriage. Those are accomplishments that cannot be quantified in dollars or property deeds. We ended the call with plans for a proper visit the following month, once she had worked through some of her complex emotions. David remained radio silent for 5 days before sending a brusque, "Need time to process. Not ready to talk yet." It was the most honest communication we'd had in years, and I respected his boundary without asking for more. Dad's response was the most difficult. A week passed with no word until a birthday card arrived in the mail with a gift card to a home improvement store. No accompanying note, but the choice of gift acknowledged my new homeowner status, a small, almost imperceptible step toward acceptance. The weeks that followed were a mix of sadness and liberation. I missed the easy family relationships I'd once taken for granted, but there was also relief in no longer maintaining the illusion that everything was fine between us. I threw myself into making the house truly mine, painting walls, arranging and rearranging furniture, installing window treatments, making decisions based on my preferences and needs rather than what others might think. It felt like a breath of fresh air. When a colleague asked about my weekend plans and I mentioned refurbishing the guest bathroom, she casually inquired, "Will your family come to see the improvements?" I replied without deflection or sugarcoating, "We're dealing with some tough issues regarding my move." Her knowing nod and shared story of similar struggles with her own relatives made me realize how universal these experiences were. The pretense of perfect family harmony I'd maintained had only isolated me further. This realization sparked another important decision. I joined a networking group for first-generation professionals. It helped me connect with others, navigating the complicated territory between their roots and their achievements. Their stories of similar family tensions helped me understand that I wasn't alone in these struggles. After I got my doctorate, my father didn't speak to me for 3 years, one woman shared. Maria, an old professor, only had an 8th grade education and saw my degree as a criticism of him. It took some time, but he eventually came around. The most significant shift in my thinking came from therapy, which I began 6 months after that failed family gathering. Weekly sessions helped me untangle complex emotions around success, family loyalty, and identity. Your achievement doesn't diminish anyone else's worth, my therapist emphasized during a particularly difficult session. And their discomfort with your success isn't something you need to fix by becoming smaller. This perspective freed me from the guilt that had hampered my achievements. I began openly celebrating milestones, a major promotion at work, the completion of the front porch restoration, without first considering how my family would perceive these accomplishments. 10 months after moving in, Dad sent an unexpected text message. "Your mother says the gutters need cleaning before winter. Do you have someone handling that?" The message contained no warmth, no personal connection, yet it represented something monumental: concern for my home's maintenance, an acknowledgement of its importance, and perhaps an oblique offering of practical knowledge. "I got quotes, but haven't scheduled anyone yet," I replied carefully. "Any recommendations?" He responded unexpectedly swiftly. "These firms overcharge. I could take a look next weekend if you want." My hands trembled slightly as I typed my acceptance. When I called Mom to check, she revealed Dad had been thinking about this offer for weeks, summoning up the nerve to extend this olive branch in the only manner he knew how. The following Saturday, my father's truck appeared in my driveway. Dressed in work clothes, he nodded curtly, as if he were arriving for any ordinary job rather than his first visit to his daughter's home. Mom accompanied him, her nervous smile revealing the significance of the moment. "Nice place," he offered gruffly, assessing the exterior with professional detachment. "They don't build them like this anymore." In the backyard, Dad examined the gutters while I held the ladder, and Mom's fingers trailed across the kitchen countertops she'd only seen in photographs. I gave them the tour-eyed plan 9 months earlier, and I noticed Dad's eyes widened slightly at the craftsmanship of the original woodwork. The familiar routine of working alongside him, passing tools, following directions, bridged some of the gap between us. "You did good, Emma," he said quietly as we packed up his tools. Not, "I'm proud of you." Not, "I'm sorry." But an acknowledgement of my accomplishment that cost him something to give. I accepted it for the monumental concession it represented. That evening, sitting on my porch swing, watching the sunset paint my garden in golden light, I reflected on the complex journey of the previous year. The house that had initially appeared to fracture my family connections now offered a different kind of foundation. One where meaningful relationships could potentially be restored, brick by brick. I realized that home wasn't just about the physical space or the financial achievement it represented. It was about creating a sanctuary where I could be my authentic self while keeping doors open to those who shaped me. My family's acceptance journey is still in progress, full of tentative steps and unspoken truths. Some wounds would take years to fully heal, if they ever did, and the path forward would not be easy or straightforward. But for the first time, I feel like I'm building a home, not just for myself, but for the possibility of a future where my roots and wings can coexist. This house, this dream, isn't just a place I live. It's a testament to every sacrifice, every challenge, and the unwavering belief that you can build the life you want, even if those you care about struggle to see it with you.